you stay down here where it's thick, you're okay. I have tape to protect the bluing on this metal. I have these little blocks that I've used to pad this receiver to squeeze it, and they're milled out to fit that receiver. Let's see if I hit those blocks when I'm rasping and filing. Those blocks are little bumpers to keep me from hitting anything else that I don't need to hit. Alright, I've got this thing shaped and sanded and fitted. I'm going to cut the length off. I've made it about a ½ inch too long from the get-go. I'm just evening up the backs, the back end. I'm going to put a nice mark here on the front and just cut that off with a chop saw. Then I'm going to come back and round that front right there, and also round it over, just dress it off. You know what I could do is just mark that round like it is and cut that off with a bandsaw. That'll save me a little bit of grinding time. Ready for checkering. Because this is the factory pattern, I'm going to reproduce it as close as I can. What I'm going to do is put a piece of tape, blue painter's tape. The top edge of this checkering pattern is just about 3/16 from the top of the wood. So what I'm going to do is lay my tape along that top edge and then let it drape down over, and I'm going to trace that outline. What I'm making here is called a rubbing. Take a pencil. I've laid my tape at the very top inside the border. I'm not at the outside of the border. I'm starting with the checkering pattern. I'm just going to take a pencil and kind of dig it into that line, and it'll follow it. It's just a dent. It's just a little groove, and it'll follow that line until it doesn't. This thing turns down right here on the end, and it mirrors this edge that turns down right there. It mirrors it, it shadows it. So that's my outline. Alright, I'm going to make one for the middle and one for the other side. And then I'm just going to measure from this back edge to that point. I'm going to measure down from the top down. This actually is closer to the edge on the front than it is on the back. About a 1/16. It tapers. I'll just position this where the other one mimic this one here. Oh, by the way, I'm going to cut that out. The simplest thing would be to just take a knife and score it. Since this one can't be used anymore, I'm just going to lightly score this. Just enough to barely score that tape. If it doesn't cut through it, that's okay. It'll give me like a dotted line that I can break it on. Like so. To position it, I'm just outlining that that escutcheon where I milled out, where the escutcheon is inletted. Now this is called a rubbing, where you take your pencil and lay it on its side and hit the highlights. See where I've just outlined where that escutcheon sits. That'll give me a position for where the checkering pattern goes. To checker this new one, I'm going to put it in my checkering cradle. I'm going to set the barrels in there, snap that onto the barrels, and that'll give me a way to hold on to it. And marking it is a whole lot more tedious than just putting tape on this one. I have an insert that will hold this, and it'll let me cradle it up. All I'm doing is evening up the back end of this wood and transferring that mark straight up. Now if I can peel it without misshaping it, this tape, this stuff will stretch. So you do have to be careful of stretching it and messing it up. Now, just as a matter of curiosity and just to check to see how accurate what I've done is, if this is the same size around it as this, when I put that checkering pattern, it should be the same size between that gap.